All right, let's get right into it. We're going to look past all the tanks, the jets, the high-tech gear, and uncover the one invisible weapon that has always been the real key to winning a war.
So let me ask you, what do you think an army's most powerful weapon really is? Is it some cutting-edge fighter jet? Maybe an unstoppable tank? Well, what if I told you the most decisive weapon in all of history isn't made of steel at all? In fact, it's something you can't even see.
Yeah, most people would point to technology, tactics and strategy. But the real answer? It's in the Army's social architecture. It's about the bonds between soldiers and that deep sense of belonging. What this means is that military success isn't really about hardware. It's a feat of social engineering, first and foremost.
To really get this, we're going to look at the software of soldiering throughout history, because it's this human element, the social programming behind the soldier, that has always been the secret to building an effective fighting force.
Okay, so the whole idea really boils down to two forces. You've got the horizontal glue of social bonds, the stuff holding soldiers together side by side, and then you have the vertical framework of a hierarchy, giving them direction from the top down. It's the dynamic tension between these two that forges a truly effective army.
And honestly, there is no better place to start than with the absolute masters of this stuff, the Roman legion. These guys didn't just conquer with swords and shields, they conquered with a revolutionary social design.
At the very heart of the legion was a small unit called the contubernium. Now, think of it as an 8-man mess group, or kind of like a tent-mate family. These men were way more than just a squad. They were a tiny, self-contained society where your survival depended, literally, on the 7 other guys. It was the crucible where the Legion's legendary loyalty was actually forged.
And this really gets to the core of it. The big, abstract idea of fighting for Rome was powerful, sure, but what actually made a soldier hold the line when things got terrifying? It was the guy standing right next to him, his contubernalis. Loyalty was forged in the small, personal moments between these men. Now, the genius of the Roman system was how they scaled this intense bond upwards. The contubernium was the basic building block. 10 of those formed a century. 6 centuries made up a cohort, and 10 cohorts formed the mighty legion. So each level created a new, larger layer of identity, but it was all built on that foundational 8-man family. It's brilliant.
Okay, let's fast forward a few hundred years to the medieval era. After Rome fell, the whole social structure of armies was completely turned on its head. Loyalty to a huge, impersonal state was gone. It was replaced by something far more direct, a personal vow to a specific lord.
I mean, the contrast is just stark. Where Rome had standardized soldiers who were loyal to an abstract state, the medieval knight was this elite individual warrior who was loyal to a person. The focus completely shifted from collective discipline to individual honor and a sworn personal promise.
So you might be asking, if loyalty was so personal, what held all these different warriors together? Well, the answer is chivalry. But don't just think of it as some romantic ideal from the movies. It was actually a sociological tool. It created a shared identity, a kind of supergroup, for the entire knightly class, giving them a common code of conduct and values no matter which specific lord they happened to serve.
Ultimately, the whole medieval system was built on this complicated web of personal relationships. A knight's military service was a direct trade for land. His loyalty was a sacred oath. And his commander wasn't some appointed officer. He was his social superior by birthright. It was all personal.
All right, let's jump forward again. The rise of nation-states and, of course, gunpowder weapons changed everything. This led to the massive professional armies we recognize today. And this created a whole new challenge for social engineering.
Armies suddenly became these huge, bureaucratic machines. The individual soldier was standardized again, recruited not by a local lord, but by the state itself. The focus snapped back to discipline and obedience, but this time it was obedience to abstract rules and regulations, not a personal leader you knew. And that created a huge problem. How do you build those critical bonds in such a giant, impersonal system?
The answer they came up with was a new concept, esprit de corps. This is the deliberate effort to build up unit pride, a sense of fellowship and tradition. Think of regimental histories, special patches and insignia, shared rituals, all that stuff. It's the modern military's way of creating a family identity to fight back against the anonymity of a massive organization.
But here's the crazy part. Even inside this vast modern military machine, if you drill down to the smallest, most fundamental unit, you find something incredibly familiar.
something that brings this whole story full circle.
And here it is. This is the punchline. The modern 8 to 12-man infantry squad is the direct sociological descendant of the Roman contubernium. It works in exactly the same way. A small group sharing hardship, relying on each other for their very survival, and serving as the primary crucible where a soldier's fiercest loyalties are forged. Nothing has changed.
So after this whole journey, from the legions of Rome all the way to today's infantry, a really clear and powerful pattern starts to emerge.
Here's the ultimate takeaway. The weapons change, the tactics change, the uniforms change, but the social software of soldiering, that remains remarkably and powerfully constant. The true, enduring strength of any army will always lie in its social fabric, that intricate weave of human connection and clear hierarchy.
And that leaves us with a final and pretty vital question for our future. As warfare becomes more about drones and AI and remote operations, what happens to this human element? What happens to that invisible weapon, the human bond, that for thousands of years has been the ultimate key to victory?